Today I'm going to show you how to create an editable, multi-object view of your Salesforce data using GridBuddy. When we're done, we're going to end up with a view that looks something like this. Here I'm showing multiple accounts with fields from the account object, as well as related cases, tasks, and opportunities. Every field we see in this view is editable, subject to my Salesforce profile permissions. So to create this, let's go into the GridBuddy application. When you first open the application, you're going to default to a tab called the Grid Wizard. Here you're going to have an option to either create a new grid, or in this case, edit an existing grid. The Grid Wizard is an easy-to-use three-step wizard that's going to allow you to create your editable Salesforce view. Step 1, you create your configuration options. So here I've named my grid, accounts with related objects, and defined a parent object. You see here that GridBuddy supports both standard and custom Salesforce objects. Below that, we have a series of configuration options on the grid. I can check this box to enable create new functionality, and I can check this box to enable the delete functionality. Again, we respect all Salesforce profile permissions. I can also turn on the mass update feature and the user-defined filter button. By default, display as read-only checkbox is selected. I'm actually going to unselect this so my grid loads in edit mode by default. I'm also going to change the number of records that appear per page, bump it from 30 to 50. And I can assign a folder structure for my grid. So Dev and Sales are two folders that I've created in GridBuddy. I'm going to assign this grid to the Sales folder where I have custom permissions wrapped around it so only the Sales profile permissions can see it. When I'm happy with my changes, I'll hit Next and go to the next step. Step 2, we actually define what fields show on the grid. You'll see two columns, one for available fields and one for selected fields. Available fields are all fields that you have in your org. Selected fields are all fields that show on your grid. You'll see here that we list out the objects in your org, starting with the parent object on top. We also automatically return all the child objects related to your parent object in your schema. All these objects expand to show all the fields that the currently logged in user can see within each object. To add a field to the grid, you either hit the green button, or you can actually drag it over to the fields. You can also rearrange the fields within an object, and they'll show on your grid from left to right. To add an object to the grid, we're going to simply go down to one of the child objects and expand it. Here, when I drag in fields from my custom object, you can see on the right it's going to bring these onto my grid. You'll see scrolling down that I've already added fields from the case, opportunity, and task object. When I'm happy with my changes, I'll hit Next to go to step 3. On step 3, I'm going to define the grid filters I want on accounts with related objects. You'll see at the top I can toggle between all records in the org or just the records owned by the currently logged in user. You can also filter by field. You see here that I'm showing account numbers not equal to 1234 and a created date in the last 3 days. One thing to note is we do support custom formula fields in this filter by field. You can read more about this in our user guide on our website. I can also set advanced filter conditions based on the fields above. GridBuddy has a custom cross-object filter where I can filter the parent object by related child objects. Here, since I've selected account, I can choose to see only the accounts that, let's say, do not have cases, but do have opportunities associated to them. This allows you to do custom exception reporting in GridBuddy. GridBuddy also supports a multi-level sort. Here I'm sorting my account name ascending. I can also add a sort by condition to say perhaps account rating descending. I can also set a max record limit and say only return the first 100 records you find. Scrolling down, you see you have filter conditions for every object that you've brought on the grid. When I'm happy with my changes, I'll hit Save. And now I'll hit the Launch Grid button to see my changes live. You can see here that the custom object that we brought in the grid is now showing in my view. And I can expand all records to now make multiple changes across multiple objects. The Mass Update button also appeared that I activated on step 1, and now I can define one value that gets applied to multiple records on the page. For more information, visit us on our website at www.salesforceappbuddy.com, where you can view other videos on GridBuddy functionality and how to integrate a grid into a record detail page. You can also send us a tweet at sfappbuddy.com or send us an email at info@salesforceappbuddy.com to set up a free 15-minute consultation.